Okay, good afternoon, everyone. In the class, I see I have 3 folks online so far, and there looks like there are 2 answers so far from people. And I've just sent a message or given an example or some direction. Good afternoon, everyone. In the class, I've given some direction to Maddie and Ryan regarding using evidence. Okay, so Serena, if you could please include some evidence about some people that possibly benefited from, say, World War I, and then other people who were hurt by World War I. So at this point in the course, you've all done some research and you have some evidence that can back these up. So please add some detail. So you have some statements here, but it's just like making a paragraph without having evidence to it. And the whole point to this is that we show that perspective can change, but also that you're using the historical thinking skill of evidence. So go ahead, everybody, and just add some evidence of your statements. Like for example, Maddie, I know that back when you looked at the perspectives as far as Lieutenant Colonel Borden goes, and you were looking at him trying to convince school-aged children to get their fathers to join the war. So that's the kind of perspective. All right, Serena, that's great. Yeah, they got a chance to further their career. So which artists, do you have a specific artist from that era? So if you're looking for, say, a level 4 in a history course, it's okay to say artists, but it's even better to say which artist it was and how they were able to further their career. So I know that someone used Frederick Varley for their World War I Remembrance Day poster. So how did Frederick Varley benefit? Like, what would his perspective be? So just type something in there that for you to be a full participant in this discussion, you need to also read one other person's post, and you are going to need to comment on their post, like give them some feedback. So just like I did, where I talked to Maddie and Ryan about some evidence, using some evidence directly in the way that I'm talking to Serena about artists in World War I. So keep in mind, also a suggestion for you folks that are on the discussion right now is don't necessarily hurry through this. As long as you're on pace and you're getting the work done, it's way more important that you understand fully what the historical thinking skills are, and that they're using the evidence from the course pages. Just to give you an example of a practice that is not good practice for this course, is that someone submitted a timeline activity to me that had entirely American events on it. Whereas you never have to leave any of the pages for our course to find any evidence that you need. It's all in here. And you build that evidence up as you go through the course, and you do those evidence planners and such. Okay, so that's better. Yeah, that's much better, Maddie, for sure. Now, are there any challenges that Maybelle Sampson experienced while she was at the front lines? Maybe that she had to go through so she could improve or prove her worth as a Canadian citizen? All right, folks. So what you're seeing now is I'm going through some of the examples of where you can find perspectives. So we've got Unit 2, Activity 1, Canadian Reactions to World War One. And I'm just looking at Ryan's post here. So Jeremiah Jones was a soldier who, despite being suggested, never received such an honor. Okay, so Ryan, check it again. He was suggested for a Distinguished Conduct Medal, but it's not that he never received it. It's that there's something else to the story. So does anybody out there want to comment on what on Ryan's post about Jeremiah Jones? Did Jeremiah Jones ever receive the medal? And if so, what's significant about the amount of time it took for Jones to get his medal? All right, and it looks like we have Mr. Skills up on YouTube right now. So the Chuck Lee event helps us understand change and how, okay. So from Chuck Lee's perspective, though, what kind of change is that? Do you have anything you can compare it to? That's right, Ryan. He did receive it after death. How long did it take? How many years until? Because it's true for both uh, Suhaib and from Ryan that, I mean, Canada eventually and Canadian policies change, but it's just a matter of what it takes to change those policies. Great. So I'm seeing that we've got a few posts on here. Oh, thanks, Suhaib. Serena, you should add the perspective, history hurting others. So maybe not history hurting others, but perhaps what you meant was the policy of how it hurt others. So Serena, maybe a clearer picture would be, what did someone like, say, what did Frederick Farley have to experience to gain I would say, popularity? Remembering that he was a war artist. All right, and remember, folks, that I am also in the pager room right now. If you have any questions about the course, you can also post questions for the course here, and I could run through those with you. So post any course questions here, and I can do a screen capture for you. Perspective determines the decision ones make, what's important to them and what's not, and how they react to situations. Okay, Victoria, same thing. What I would like you to do is, and I've said it above, is can you please refer to a specific person or group of people that decisions were made for or against? So if you look up at the very top of this discussion feed over here, you can see that I have put the example of Chuck Lee. So if you can be specific, and yeah, Victoria, you have a good thing, a good point here about one's perspective influenced by friends and family, community, life experience, but you need to make it specific to someone in the course. So some person, say for example, if you go and look back on Nellie McClung and the relationship that she had with her son and what it meant to her to lose her son, being, of course, against the war in the first place. All right, Maddie, great work, good feedback. So Maddie, remember to specifically refer back to the person there who you are talking to. So if you're talking to Ryan, oh, you did, never mind. It's got Ryan Jeremiah Jones. Okay, excellent, good work. And this is what the discussion page is all about. Also, on this discussion page, folks, if you found any particular part of the course difficult, you can ask a question right now. Someone on the discussion page might be able to help you out. So we have now, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people here. 5 people. 5 people who've attributed to the discussion page. Ah, okay, excellent. Yeah, Victoria, that is an excellent fact to use. That is really. And Victoria, can you tell everybody where you perhaps found that fact? Which unit and activity number was that? And Suhaib, as far as what was his attitude in the 20s, that's something that you are going to have to look up yourself. So you're going to have to go in and find whose attitude that was. So you're going to have to go in and see what the experience of Chuck Lee was, and that's in Unit 2, Activity 6. There's also a number of other perspectives in Unit 2, Activity 6 that you can look at. But Suhaib, if you want to know, he had to leave his new wife behind, and he also had to pay $500 just for being a Chinese immigrant, like just specifically for being from China. So I don't think his attitude would have been one that was very positive toward the policies of the Canadian government. All right, good point, Victoria. What does that show? What does that show about Indigenous people's willingness to fight during World War I? And if anyone else wants to chime in and talk to Victoria about the points that she made and maybe what that reveals about the Indigenous perspective in World War I. Okay, if you folks are still online, I'm still waiting for, let's see, Ryan to comment on someone else's post. And Serena, I'm also looking for you to comment on someone else's post as well. So once you've commented on one other person's post, you can leave the chat room, and that's just fine. Unless you want to stick around, I will have this chat room open for the next half an hour until 3 o'clock today. And that way you can get real-time help. You can just keep the chat room open if you'd like as well. And it's a little speedier than the pager. And I can show you some screen captures as well. Okay, so Victoria, could you post what specifically the activity, the unit and activity number you got that from? And Serena, that way you can go back and you can take a look at why exactly they joined. So I don't think it had anything to do with the land, but you could definitely look through. So yeah, Victoria, post the unit and activity number that you had for Serena's sake, and she can go take a look at the evidence there about the First Nations and the Micmac. Okay, Rob, I see that you've joined the conversation here, which is great, but you retracted a statement about Chuck Lee. So I'm guessing you're probably looking for some other piece of evidence right now. That's great. When you're ready, go ahead and post something there. Okay, thanks a lot, Victoria. That's great. Unit 2, Activity 2, Canada's role in World War I conflict and change abroad. Okay, so that's Unit 2, Activity 2. So everybody, I'm going to pull up Unit 2, Activity 2 for you, and you can take a look at what... there it is. Excellent. Okay, so... Jeremiah Jones and other black soldiers. Remember, all of these pieces of information on the screen here are evidence. You go through them all. There you go. Some war artists here, Canadian filmmakers, Billy Bishop and War in the Air. Awesome. Maybelle Sampson. He's got weapons here. There's Peggy. Stuff. Peggy again. Alrighty. As you can see, some of you might not have seen or know how to flip through these different pieces of evidence. So now this is a good time for you to see that. Okay, folks, now I see that the discussion is starting to heat up a bit, and I am loving what I'm seeing with the evidence-based additions. And Suhaib, yeah, by extending that into the piece about him trying to go to school in Halifax and graduating and not getting a job after that is completely the reality of the situation back then. And in fact, Chinese Canadians didn't receive full citizenship until after World War II, until many of them had fought in World War II. And it was not until 1947, after returning veterans from World War II and their families pushed to have well, at this time, it was just a complete block on immigration, and the head tax removed. Was it done then? In fact, it was called specifically the Chinese Exclusion Act. So it had the word exclusion right in it, so there was no hiding what it was, which was eventually changed to the Chinese Immigration Act, but it was still an immigration directly targeting Chinese people. So, not the most glorious of backgrounds as far as Canadian history goes, starting with the Komagata Maru, which Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau just apologized this past year for in Parliament. And we're also going to see the Canadian treatment of Jewish refugees right before World War II ended in a very negative look for Canadian immigration policy, something called the MS St. Louis, which we'll look at. But this course gives us an interesting way to look at the founding administrators, the founding, I guess it would be policymakers that came up with early the policymakers that originally came up with the policies of government usually were from upper class white male backgrounds. So of course that's going to be reflected. And also at the time, the constituents in their ridings were also a lot of middle or lower class white British immigrants at the time who their will was reflected in the people that they voted in. So obviously they wanted their constituents to keep, well, a good portion of them at least wanted their constituents to keep Chinese folks out of Canada. And really, if you look at the Western experience, it's much more reflected there because Chinese and Japanese immigrants came in through BC. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Some technical difficulties on my end. I'm just getting back to sharing the screen now. So you should be seeing the page of Unit 2, Activity 2. It's in different perspectives here. So going to go through who I've seen some work from so far, and if you're all done, you can head out. You can go and get some work done for the day. So Ryan, Suhaib, Serena, Mehrab, Victoria, and Madeline. You folks can head into the chat if you want. If you want to stick around, I'll keep it open for another. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody is welcome to still stay. That's totally fine. Yep, stick around in the live chat here, and I can share any more information with you after. Oh, looks like I'm having some technical difficulties with the screen sharing focus or screen sharing work here. So I'm just going to try to call this up again. So bear with me, folks, and I should be back in just a second. Yep, so for some reason, screen share is not working, which doesn't help us at all. So I'm going to try to fix this, if that works. Trying to screen share now, and I hope we can see something other than just a black screen on our YouTube live feed here. No, so that's okay. All right, well, that's fine. So yeah, Victoria, let's see here. I feel like we're hoping that if they would help. Well, yeah, so do you have you're probably, yeah, Suhaib, I received your link, and I'll get a chance to look at that after 3 o'clock. And yeah, Suhaib, stick around at 3. I actually have to take off and go run another discussion for my applied history class. So if you have any questions now, then I would say go ahead and ask, but I guess I'm not going to be able to share my screen, so I won't be able to walk you through it necessarily. Victoria, that's great. You can head out if you'd like, unless you want to stick around and get some more help for the next 10 minutes or so. Oh no, you don't have to stick around later. No, not in the YouTube chat, Suhaib. That's fine. No, you can just ask me messages in the pager, and I'll answer them there. There's also another discussion page that I can go into, and I can screen share with you there to show you certain things within the course, and that's totally fine. If anybody out there still listening and you need a one-on-one lesson, then just let me know and I can set you up with that. You're welcome, Sue Haven. Thanks for all the questions. It's great. Your willingness to make changes to your work and then resubmit shows some great initiative. So keep it up. Anytime. Glad I can help. This is way more exciting for me than just sitting behind a computer and marking. All right, so it looks like I've got 3 people watching now, and possibly Suhaib, you might be the last one. So I'll leave this open for another 7 minutes, and if you have any questions about anything, please post it here. But otherwise, we will be all done. And the next classroom chat will take place next Monday. Next Monday, just like it did this Monday, and we'll have a grand total of 4 of them before the exam. Oh, you're welcome, Mehrab. I'm glad I could help. And make sure, Mehrab, that you take the chance now and you speak to one of the pieces that are on here. And also, you need to yourself answer the question that's at the bottom of the discussion page. So how can perspective change the way we look at history? So I'm going to start off with a prompt for you. Perspective can change the way we look at history by. So in this case, it would be perspective can change the way we look at history by looking at the example of Chuck Lee during the 1920s. And Chuck Lee's experience during the 1920s was not a positive one. And so therefore, well, because he had to pay a $500 head tax, he couldn't go back to his wife, he couldn't bring his wife here. And therefore, well, and also, as mentioned by Suhaib, he couldn't get a job once he graduated from school because of the racism that continued. So Mehrab, make sure you post your own post there for the chat. And also, Mehrab, remember that at any point you can, in fact, request like a one-to-one chat if you had any other questions, and we can go in and I can do a screen share. All right, so we have 4 minutes left. If anybody has any more questions or comments or anything, post them in the live chat. And Mehrab, I'll give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and do that, to post your answer there. Okay, 3 more minutes for the live chat today, folks. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you want me to answer about the course? Let me know. And if you've been here participating today, if you felt like this has helped you, that's great. So continue in your answers and your posts online and your blog posts and stuff to include that kind of level of detail. And when you include that sort of level of detail, you will have no problem at all in this course. The last thing I want to talk about is I know that there was a person who did a timeline with attitude project and missed a significant amount of the 1920s. So remember, the first unit is 1914 all the way up to 1929. So make sure that your timeline includes events from that entire time period, 14 right up to 29. And it's not necessarily that you're going to find a list of events anywhere on the classroom page, but what you do, or on the e-learning virtual learning environment, the course homepage or content, what you're going to do is you're going to find evidence of these events, say, for instance, the Chinese head tax and the founding of that within a person's evidence, their first-hand evidence. So you can look at Chuck Lee and figure out about what time that was by looking at the source itself. Okay, down to the last minute. The last minute for questions. Otherwise, the pager will be open all day. And if you need any real-time help, send me a pager message and I can open up a chat room on the side. But for the next half hour or so, I'm going to be running a discussion page for my applied level history kids. So I'll pop in and out of the pager and try to help as best I can, but I hope this was revealing for you and gave you a lot of good ideas. And I will talk to you all very soon. Thanks again.